We get started now. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. The committee will now hear Student Diversity Budgeting Board presentation. As a reminder, the presentation must be given by a student or students. However, it's advisable that faculty or professional staff or other students or anyone else is present as well to help answer questions that the committee might have. The presentation must be under 30 minutes, and the committee can ask questions that come up during that time. However, we will probably save most of our questions discussion for afterwards when we have 45 minutes to discuss. About 45 minutes is pretty flexible. After that deliberation, the committee will make a tentative decision on your fee level, and then after that, the final hearing is February 12th at 5 p.m. in the MU Ballroom, and that's Tuesday. And that's where we will set your final fee level. Also, if you could send me your presentation, that'd be very helpful, because then I'll put it up on the website. Cool, and you guys can go get started.
Welcome. Thank you for attending our our budget hearing for the Student Diversity Budgeting Board. And I am Caitlin Kerrigan. I'm one of the co-chairs.
And I'm Luis Gonzalez. I'm the other co-chair.
And we're both students. I'm a graduate student in the College Student Services Administration program, and I also work in Intercultural Student Services.
And I'm an undergraduate studying industrial engineering. So.
Yeah.
Okay. And then these are our other members on the board.
Nick, you don't read them?
Or I could read them. So we have Julia, Fatima, Dith, Jill, and we also have some prescribed positions like Blake Vienna. He's the OSU Executive Director of Diversity Development. We also have Allison David White-Eyes, which is an advisor to the board, as well as Kurt Black.
Who's helped us?
Just real quick, I'm guessing the last two are not voting?
They're not voting members,
Okay, right.
yes.
So the SDBB, we oversee 9 budgets, so that includes all the cultural centers, along with diversity development, the Pride Center, Soul, the Women's Center, and fee management.
So what is SDBB and what do we do? We provide support and consultation to diversity development, the different cultural centers, Black Cultural Center, Centro Cultural, the NAL, Native American Longhouse, Pride Center, Women's Center, regarding the use of student fees and how we can appropriately distribute those for students. We have over 71 student workers and 3 professional staff members. The professional staff members are in diversity development, and we're hiring another one for diversity development, which we'll update you on as well. And we also have someone in the Women's Center, so yeah. We have 71 students as well.
So the budgets we're presenting to you today, there are 2. One of them is version A, and this is as requested by SIFC. This budget represents a 0% increase with all the mandates included. The budgets that you have with you are a total allocation of $909,030. The student per term fee for fall, winter, and spring is set at $1282. For the summer, it's at $830. There's something we will present on later about that. And then overall, there's a decrease of 0.04% for the student fee. There's a reduction of 7.39% for the student fee.
This is not ideal. This is not what we're
right. And this is in order to achieve all this with 0% increase. A lot of the cultural centers actually had to cut a lot of vital line items. This was only to fit the 0% increase. So it's not ideal, which is why we also have another version.
Which is our preferred version. This is version B. And this includes mandated increases and then costs that we need for the fiscal year of 2012 and 2013. So the total allocation for this is $939,701. And our fee level is $13.27 per student per fee for fall, winter, and spring, and $830 per student for summer. And so this is an increase of 3.33% with a reduction of student fees for fall, winter, and spring of 4.08%.
So this is diversity development is one of the budgets we oversee, and one of the major changes you'll see in the budgets include the moving of graduate teaching assistantship funds from the diversity development budget to their respective cultural center budgets. So there will be a big reduction in their budget, but all the cultural centers, their budgets will go up because the graduate assistant pay has been moved. That's the major change in that budget. And also there will be recruiting for a new classified position in diversity development in January 2013.
Yeah, so it looks like they have big jumps, and they do, but it's a reallocation of funds. It's not like an additional $30,000
Right.
just added in. So,
Real quick.
yes.
Why was that chosen?
You know, we decided to do that because it made more sense for diversity development not to oversee the individual budgets for the GTA, but like why not have it actually in the cultural centers? They're serving the cultural centers. It just made more sense for us
They
this
work
year.
exclusively in the cultural centers.
Yes, they're overseen by diversity development. So Victoria is their main supervisor, but it just made more
They're not
sense.
really admin, they're really actually support within the cultural centers.
Yeah. And so it's graduate teaching assistants is what we're referring to. Yeah.
Why would the requested professional faculty position not be included within the same budget then? If they're supposed to be specific to the cultural center, wouldn't you want them to be in the same budget, especially for consistency issues and transparency within that process?
I think ideally, yeah, that would be great. I don't know if we haven't set any particular budget of where they would be. That's just, so we haven't said that they'll be with diversity development or housed in the cultural centers.
Without a defined place.
Yeah,
for
we
it
didn't
within-
define where they would be. I think we were hoping to get the decision package before it was before it was decided, yeah. And so a lot of exciting things are happening within student diversity. So we have 4 new buildings that are going to be brought online by the end of 2014. This is great. We have the Native American Longhouse, which was officially named Ina House, and so this was opened January 2013, and the name was officially decided a couple weeks ago by the community members and students. We also have the Centro Cultural Cesar Chavez, which is opening September 2013, tentatively. It's anticipated. It's still up right now, but we're working on getting that started. We also have the Lonnie B. Harris Black Cultural Center, and that will be opening winter 2014, and the Asian Pacific Cultural Center opening spring 2014. So these are all anticipated, but hopefully they'll be on time.
And in terms of the Native American Longhouse, as you know, the Longhouse opened in January just recently, and it's exciting to have a new building. You know, they have with bigger rooms and everything. They have more programming ahead of them and have a lot more things planned. Also, there's unanticipated costs for maintenance. You know, with the arrival of new buildings and that. There's always new things that might come up that you didn't exactly plan for when it comes to maintenance of the building. Also, as we mentioned earlier, the name was settled to be Native American Longhouse, Ina House. And then the demolitions for the old house have not been determined quite yet.
And if you haven't had a chance to go see it, I would highly recommend it. It's beautiful. So we have some future hopes for our new cultural resource centers. There's a lot more programming, lots more activity. We're going to be doing a lot more outreach and, to the OSU community and the community at large. There's also an increase in utility and maintenance, and again, we need to emphasize the new costs associated with the buildings. It looks a little different in each of the budgets because each of the cultural centers are in a different, there are different stages in their production, I guess, or their process. So some of them are in Snell, some of them are moved into their new centers. It's a real process and along a continuum. And so some examples, like the NAL is complete and it's being utilized right now. There's lots of programming happening, but it now has utilities that it didn't have before, so we have a lot of increased costs. Another example is damage to the door in the front. So that's an unanticipated cost that we were hoping to cover through. What happened to the door? It's had a coat, but it was not protected from the weather. And so the weather has been showing damage on it, and it's like a month old. So we need to, yeah, so.
And in regards to the utilities, also with the NAL, their heating is no longer provided through gas, and now it's electricity. So in the budgets, you'll see a reflection in that the electricity cost is projected to be higher for next year. That's based on estimates. And
We went to like Pacific Power and just got estimates for they had to actually take like calculations of square footage and electricity use and just kind of estimate. So that's kind of a lot of the obstacles that we ran into are these are new centers, and so it's hard to know how much it's actually going to cost. So we just did estimates.
And for the Centro Cultural Cesar Chavez, they, as mentioned before, they were moved to Snell 4th floor, and also their center is anticipated to come online around September 2013. And the budget B, which we provided you, reflects all the costs associated with moving from Snell to their new building.
So the Lonnie V. Harris Black Cultural Center was moved to 4th floor Snell, and so there were costs associated with that as well. Additionally, the current building on Monroe is scheduled to be relocated, and it's very expensive. It's $35,000 in partnership with another department, and this is hopefully going to be funded through our fund balance. The anticipated completion rate is winter 2014, and the budget reflects costs associated with moving. So it's on 4th floor Snell if you have any questions about that.
And the APCC, the Asian Pacific Cultural Center, they will be staying there in their current location until their new center is built. And their center is anticipated to be complete by spring 2014. And also there was a little bit of a delay, I guess, with the meeting with the city council. They actually proposed a design for the building, but it wasn't, it got rejected, the design, because it did not meet the historical review committee's, you could say, guidelines. And so that had to be redesigned, and now they have to go and appeal that, and they have to get that approved still. And also, the new center will be located behind Fairbanks.
Yeah. And so the Women's Center's budget isn't changing too drastically, but we just wanted to highlight some of the programs that they're doing. They're trying a lot of new things that we outlined in the packet, but we have a wide variety of programs and events, and one of the highlights and new ones is called the Worthy Program, and this is women returning to higher education. It's been very successful, and this is providing support for non-traditionally aged women who are returning to higher education. It helps with things like learning how to use Blackboard, or where are resources on campus. As we all know, Oregon State is a big state school, so there's lots of confusion on where you can get help, and so this is really an excellent program. It was funded partly through the Women's Center, but a lot of outside funding as well. And it also has things like mentoring, so each of these students has a mentor on campus, and they can go and find them, and within the community too. So we also had Oregon Women in Higher Education, and this was a really successful event. It happened January 25th, so not too long ago. Had over 200 attendees, and it was very successful. I was on the planning committee as well, and we're also planning on hosting next year, so that's great. We've also hired a very diverse staff this year. So the Pride Center is requesting funds for a graduate teaching assistant. They currently don't have one, and we would like to get them on par with the rest of the cultural resource centers. Hopefully they would provide student support for the staff and help with retention efforts. A lot of the time what we see with our student staffs in the cultural resource centers is burnout. They're exhausted, and they need support. Yeah.
So one of the reasons to get this GTA is to make them on par with other cultural centers?
Well, they've also asked for it.
Okay. And then you're also requesting professional faculty for the cultural centers? For
the cultural resource centers, not the Pride Center particularly, not yet. So we'll get to that, but you can.
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering if one of your goals is to make them on parity, why aren't you requesting a professional faculty for the Pride Center as well?
That's an excellent question. I think we were just thinking baby steps at this point. Each of the cultural centers has a GTA right now, and so we were going to start slow with a GTA. But, I mean, ultimately, that would be wonderful. We would love to have a professional staff member within the Pride Center. So, do you want to cover that? Oh, and Victoria.
Can I add to that? Currently, the Women's Center does have a professional staff and a GTA. The Pride Center has a professional staff dedicated to that and no GTA. But the 4 cultural centers only has 1 professional staff and 4 GTAs. So the request for the professional staff in the center is to get on parity with the other 2 centers.
Okay.
The Women's Center has been really successful, and it's been running really smoothly. So. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. They have over 24 programs so far this year, which is pretty impressive, and more than 1,216 participants. And this was from when they turned in their budgets, so they've also done programming since then. Outreach is growing, and we have a new hired LGBT outreach coordinator, and he's doing great work. And it's also doing a lot of collaboration to cut down on costs. So Seoul Multicultural Support Network, both of their internal and external coordinators are leaving, and so they've asked for additional funds for professional development and conference registration so that they can prepare their new internal and external coordinators for the next year. And so they're doing great. They're still housed in the Pride Center, and they also have office hours within each of the cultural resource centers, so they do outreach to a wide population.
And these are the decision packages we've moved forward. In regards to the first one, there was multiple proposals for the professional staff member. The Student Diversity Budgeting Board decided to move along the 2 professional staff members as kind of a little step, kind of like a trial thing. But again, the ultimate goal of all the cultural centers is to have 4 of them. It would be great if that was considered. But, you know, we understand, and the Student Diversity Budgeting Board passed on 2 as kind of a trial idea behind it. And also there was the GTA for the Pride Center, the custodial staff member for the cultural centers, that's 1. And that's mostly to take care of our new centers because, you know, we have new centers, we want to keep them clean. And currently, a lot of the cleaning is done by the GTAs, and that takes away time from them to support the students that come into the cultural centers. And then there was also a decision package for student fee fund management to cover any costs associated with fund balance appropriation. And these are listed in order of priority.
And so within my role as a GTA and Intercultural Student Services, I've had a lot of opportunity to hear the struggles that we've had within the cultural centers, and burnout, retention's not good for student staff members, and that's exactly what we don't want happening. We had an internal and external review, and what this showed was that we needed professional support. We look at other institutions who have cultural centers, and some of the best institutions that were defined under best practices had a professional staff member within their cultural centers as well. And so we were hoping to move this forward because they can provide support. And also within the new cultural center, like the Native American Longhouse, we've had a lot of issues, and it's really taxing on our student staff and our graduate assistant. Staying late, having door malfunctions, figuring out like a lot of the maintenance issues. It's taken away from their studies, and it's just taxing. And so I feel like some of the anticipated questions are like, what would this professional staff member do? And they would provide student support with retention. They would do a lot of academic collaboration. They would get the Academic Success Center within the centers to help provide support so that student staff members and also people who come in just to enjoy the centers can have some support within that realm. And so they also are going to be partnering with with a lot of different departments across campus, and they will not be taking over the student voice. They are not going to be involved in programming so much. So kind of the differentiation between the professional staff and the graduate teaching assistant, the GTA is going to be doing student supervision and programming. And so I think Oregon State prides itself in having the student voice within the cultural centers, and we're not trying to take that away. We're just trying to provide support so that both our GTAs and our student staff will be able to succeed. And so they'd be helping with student supervision and training and programming.
So this is this is for the Pride Center graduate teaching assistant. Many, as we mentioned, it was to have them on par with all the cultural centers, and the responsibilities of this GTA would include these 4 bullet points, which is organizing and facilitating training and development, outreaching to staff and faculty in curriculum development and service learning, supporting internal, external coordinators, and working closely with the LGBTQ plus outreach and service coordinators. And this is actually something that the Student Diversity Budgeting Board decided to go ahead and pass by using our fund balance to offset the cost and increase for the students' student fee for fall, winter, and spring. So this would necessarily be taxing for, or in a way, increasing the student fee for this academic year.
And so in the past, the Pride Center hasn't necessarily wanted one, but they came around this year, and this is straight from the students, and they would really like a graduate teaching assistant.
And this is for our summer term justification. As if you look through our budget, there was a decision made by the Student Diversity Budgeting Board to increase the summer term fee. And this was, I have to say that this was something that was struggling because it was towards the end of a hearing. We were a little burnt out, and the board kind of struggled to make this decision. But what was decided was to set the summer term fee to be 65% of the student fee for fall, winter, and spring. And also, this was also decided because historically, they looked at the fee, and it's been at stagnant at $8.30 for quite some time, and it hasn't really been reviewed in a long time, and it doesn't really cover all the activity that happens in summer. That fee is not covering everything. So that, and I do have to say that it was something that was kind of decided with very little time on our hands, so I just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
It's not exactly inspiring, per se, for us to.
I wouldn't have it done.
Well, I just wanted to let you guys know because, we kind of did struggle with it. And then after it was passed along, some of the committee members even were a little hesitant on that, and we didn't have time to review it again.
I think a lot of our committee members were confused of what was being discussed and why we should keep it at the same or lower it.
Right.
But we don't have a vote as co-chairs, and so we couldn't really have much of a say.
Right.
So,
But I only mentioned that because there was talk of uncertainty after it was passed. So I just wanted to let you guys know about that.
yeah.
What was that uncertainty?
It's just the fact that the summer term fee level was being raised when it seems that the goal was to get fees down. That was really, yeah.
So when you were making, when you were making the decision to set it at the 65%, you said before that you were going through and that the summer fee was not covering the programming during the summer.
Right.
How did you come up with this 65 number? Was it a number that would cover? Did you really go over this budget? Because it just kind of sounds like what I'm hearing. Yeah, a little bit.
So what one of the committee members did was they did some math, and they noticed that historically the summer term fee was about 65% of what was being charged fall, winter, spring. But it was close to that, but it wasn't necessarily rising with what fall, winter, spring was doing. So that's kind of how that came about, if that makes sense. I don't know if
That makes sense.
That's something.
yeah.
And so what are we going to do with our fund balance? We have a lot of money in our fund balance, and we would like to use it and not use student funds to use their money to fund some of our things that we would like to see pass through. So we were going to take care of the Pride Center GTA, also the custodial staff member to maintain building, and so we're moving to much bigger spaces. Some of them are 3 times the size that they are now. And what's been happening is that the student staff, we do have a contracted custodial staff right now, but they come once a week and they clean the center for 2 hours. It's not sufficient, and a lot of the times what we see is our student staff members and our graduate teaching assistants staying after hours cleaning up the space so that they can run efficiently. And so we're proposing this, we were going to take over this package and split the cost between, well, now we're not. We were going to just, we're getting new custodial staff to help with that. They'll also be there to help with setup and clean and take down of events and programs. So if they need to pull out tables and chairs, then they'll be there to help with that, and it won't be as taxing on students, at 10 o'clock at night.
And by funding these decision packages through our fund balance, we've offset the fee by $1.14. So that's the saving that's being made by funding these with the fund balance that we currently have.
So, yeah, you have a question?
No.
Well, we just wanted to thank you for your time, and on behalf of the Student Diversity Budgeting Board, thank you. Thank you, SIFC, and for your time and effort. We know it's just as taxing, pun intended, for you as it is for us, and if not more so. So thank you for your flexibility. We realized our budget was a little bit late. We had some confusion, and there was a lot of
Delays.
thought and effort that did go into this, and we want you to know that we were actively doing the best that we could. So thank you, and we can open up the floor to questions.
So I can see the GTA is being moved into the APCC and the BCC, but it does not list GTA pay under the 4Cs or the NAL.
But it does have a duplicated line item of,
Grad Assistant Health Life and OPE Grad Assistant Health Other for both.
both at differing levels.
And the numbers are different between the two areas. And I'm looking at version B.
Could you repeat that line item number?
The line item well, so there's no
10994.
GTA for the 4Cs or the NAL, and then the repeat are 10994 is repeated again.
Are you looking at version B?
Yeah, it's version
It's
B.
version B, and then 10998 is also repeated.
But they have different numbers, it's just the line item is repeated.
And it's the same under the NAL, also 10994 and 10998.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're right. I was like, it's a little bit strange.
So yeah.
Yeah, we just picked up the wrong account code. And this is in.
So the first one should be teaching pay, and then the second one should be prerequisite fellow grad assistantship on the top, and then the bottom would be actual healthcare and grad assist other.
It's just,
So, and then another question, just could you explain why there would be different levels of student pay between GTAs and different levels of student pay and GTAs between each center? Like, why wouldn't they be the same?
yeah, I can definitely explain that. Part of that is whether it's our first or second year. And so you get an increase when you're a second year graduate teaching assistant. So that's where you'll see some of the changes.
That makes sense, thank you. And then for the
So you
student,
anticipate that hiring, that's how you anticipate the different, so you anticipate you're gonna hire maybe a second year in one and a first year in another, or it's
Well,
just like?
typically they're 2-year appointments.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on whether the GTA wants to continue on to the next year. We've had GTAs drop out, well, not drop out, but drop the position during their
like,
second year.
the GTA at the BCC will be going into
I
their
see.
second year next year, and there will be a new GTA at the APCC this year then?
There'll be a new one at APCC and BCC. I don't know if
So
that was
then
the
why
right
would
question.
the BCC GTA be for more than the APCC GTA?
Oh, Victoria has some answer to that.
For clarity, the BCC GTA is actually returning.
Oh.
And so they're going to be at the third year GTA rate pay.
Oh,
And
okay.
APCC will be the only new recruit at the first year rate pay.
Okay.
Got it. So then this number would be.
So the 4Cs and the NAL will be in their second?
Yes.
Do you know those numbers?
15,656.
15,656?
Yeah. Wait, actually,
that's
no, because the. Okay, so the numbers they have here would have that being paid, the NAL GTA would be paid $15,656, while the 4Cs GTA would be making slightly more than that, $15,933. So those numbers are different again.
And the NAL number is only slightly smaller than, or slightly larger than the APCC one by less than $100 for a second year.
I think part of that as well is the matriculation fee. And so when they're first coming in, their fees are covered by their assistantship as well. So
That
it's-
wouldn't be under their pay though, would it?
It would be, I don't know where.
Part of fee remission, or, yeah.
Okay.
And there's the OPE right underneath that too, which would make sense why there's $1,590, and then, but that's the same number for both the 4Cs and the NAL, but the GTA and the NAL next year would be making $250 less than the GTA and the 4Cs, with both being second year grad students.
Clarity to that?
Yeah.
The numbers we put in there are sort of best estimate because the graduate school hasn't released their salary for first year, second year, and third year yet. And in addition, the numbers will vary depending on what unit, what major, out of what college that each of the GTA will come from. That will also dictate the pay rate as well.
So their pay rate is based on what
Program.
what program they're in?
Yes.
Is that because of like specific skills or knowledge within that?
Yeah, I'm not sure, that those are just the numbers that each
Okay.
college sort of gives.
But that'd be a recommendation, right? Wouldn't it? From the college for what we think you should pay if they were doing work within what their college actually does, right?
From my understanding that, I guess you could say recommendation, but we always try to stay within the recommendation. It's just that those numbers haven't been published yet while we're doing our budget cycle, so we don't have the exact number yet.
And the
So if
fee-
you had.
I was gonna say, the fee remission is actually what varies between colleges and the programs.
Yeah. And that makes sense, but so then,
Well, but the salary, supplemental pay, and matriculation for the Pride Center GTA is set at 17,000. I mean, and that's much larger than the other ones.
That was built into that, as an added to it. With the base first year rate.
But so then why would the first year rate of the Pride Center GTA be different than the? It would
third year
be
rate of.
Almost so it'd be 1,700 more than the one for the APCC. Wouldn't there be more similarity between those two rates?
I just think it's a new position, and they're just trying to figure it out. So it's not set in stone, and we don't know where they're going to be coming from, so they probably estimated high so that they could adjust accordingly. That's, and we also have that.
Yeah, I guess I had first year rate at 15,656. Yeah, and then that 1,590 was built into that, so that's where we got the 17,246 for the pay. It was just a supplemental that was included. Just to separate them out as the account codes are. That was put together.
15,656 is first year pay?
That's what they have for the other ones, but.
So.
No, 15,656 would be second year pay.
For the NAL, but not for the 4Cs.
But then they just said it was based on what program you're coming out of, not what department or what unit you're in. So that wouldn't make sense. It would have to be based on program, not based on, it wouldn't be differing from there.
Okay.
Does the
And we'll have to
university
look
have a
at-
recommendation number for the year? And the Kurt, you might be able to answer that?
Well, I was working out for last year's and based on the estimates of the pay, we had a 3%, up to, was it 3550 is the amount, and then 0.49 of that.
I have a quick question about your use of working capital, hoping to draw down some of those funds. From your contingency fund, you say, so there's three decision packages that you want to cover the cost by fund balance appropriation. Now, typically when we do this, we're looking at year by year cost. So is that sustainable to be able to say that you're going to fund that out of your fund balance every year for the duration of however long that period is? Or are you hoping to have it one time pay out of your fund balance, use it for a year to work that number down to an appropriate OUS recommendation level, and then have a greater increase, a line item asked next year?
And one thing that's important to know about our fund balance is that there's currently an unfilled position that's adding roughly about $7,100 per month onto that, and currently there's like roughly 49,000 that's been added due to that. So we do expect the fund balance to be higher next year possibly, but that's something that should be planned out, obviously, and that's something that the committee was hoping to reconvene about and plan about.
Working into the budget, like you said, like
Right.
looking at OUS standards and.
Yeah.
So you're hoping to make, so you're wanting to use that just basically this year. So it's not a sustainable funding source for those.
Right, we'd like to build it into the budget, make it a line item for the, wherever it's established.
So why did, okay.
Yeah.
On that, like, I guess that's not enough for us, because we need to see more than just 1 year ahead. Because we want to make it sustainable, and we want to know, like, should we build this into maybe the budget right away, or how long can we fund this with the fund balance and that sort of thing? So we really want to see maybe like a 5-year projection of the working capital and how this drawdown would affect it, how maybe other things that you anticipate maybe 2014 might affect your fund balance. So we can try to next year's SIFC is not just like, oh crap, look what we have to deal with now. So that's something that we wanted to see by the open hearing, I would say. I don't work with the AABC on creating a actual working capital plan that we can actually like really use and be informed from it too, instead of just, we understand the 1 year implications, but we gotta see the longer term about it.
And if you could incorporate some kind of trend analysis so we can see what the spend down has looked like over the past 4 or 5 years. So as you're developing that plan for the future, hopefully we'll be able to see, that trend of kind of moving down and how you're responsibly using, because it's all student fee money. So how you're responsibly spending the students' money out of your fund balance.
Okay.
I think it would be more than a year. I think we have enough at least for 2 years, but I understand the need for a 4 to 5 year plan.
At the same time, even if you're funding something for 2 years, what happens at the end of those 2 years when it runs out? You don't want the fee to all of a sudden spike up. You need to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Programs have to be sustainable.
So one thing, I've talked to Kurt a little about this. For I guess early in the submission where you talk about like decision packages and mandated increases, it's kind of confusing. So it's not ever summarized, so I really have no idea what your actual mandated increases are for your entire budget. I guess I could assume it would be the difference of budget A and budget B, but I don't really know. And there's a couple things in mandated increases that I'm a little confused about, like for the 4Cs, NAL, BCC, you have telecom as a mandate increase at about $1,000. I'm interested on why that is in there and why it would be so much. And then what's that?
It's within the new building.
Yeah.
Contract for telecom charges.
Okay. What's that?
I think it says somewhere that it was like a recommendation from the AABC that it was what they anticipated with the new buildings for the
Okay.
charges would be.
Is that what?
I don't know.
So
With,
I'm going back and looking at those, I know we found a few errors that we talked about this morning,
Yeah.
but some of those is that, so we know cable is $75 a month. It wasn't budgeted in some of the current budgets, and then also there's redundancy in fire alarms, 2 lines per center when they go up, and that's $18 a month. So we'll go back and look at those.
Okay.
To see, and that's kind of one of those, yeah.
Okay.
Some of it's just the variance between current fiscal year and what it looks like to have those
Yeah.
utilities and services.
Okay. And then also, so for the decision packages, where is, like, how is that built into your budget? Because, I mean, you have these decision packages here, so I don't know, is that part of budget B, or is that?
Yeah.
Okay, so so you cut these then? So this is, yeah, so you just add whatever you were allocated last year, and then these decision packages for like a film rental, and then that would be your budget B request?
I believe so.
You know, actually, the difference between version A and version B.
Is these. So this is the same as, so this should match up with your line item reductions in
Yeah.
later on in your budget submission?
Should.
So it would be jumping, yeah, see, there it is.
No, that's for a position that got funded last year.
Because that would have been approved here.
I guess, like,
That's for the
kind of see where I'm confused, because I don't.
I think there was confusion on what you were asking, so we may have to redo this for the open hearing because we weren't exactly sure what the format is that you wanted these mandates and decision packages identified and typed up. So it was
Yeah,
just
I
kind of
mean-
a best guess. We didn't really know. There wasn't any format.
Okay. Because I mean, like, for the decision package, for the women's center versus the reduction, the total's different, so, yeah, we're gonna have to work on that over the next few days, so we can understand it.
We could use, and that'd be great.
Yeah.
We weren't exactly sure what you were asking for.
Did you include the new diversity development staff position in here?
In budget B,
Sorry, in the line 10-101 through 10-640. We're trying to find where that new staff position was included, because we saw the line item,
It's in classified staff.
staff classified salaries, but that's just a staff member jumping from unclassified salaries,
well, because
That's
there's,
what happened to the position.
that's
It
the
did?
position that got
HR
funded last year, because it's classified now,
So
but that would
what's
make,
happening with the new
that
two
would-
requested positions?
well, that would make it $36,576, but your
There's
reduction is
still
$53,386.
Still $18,000 missing.
Yeah, and then you also have to incorporate the $298,944 or the $149,000, depending on if you're 2 or 4,
And-
into that, one of those line items for classification per the request.
And are those two new positions included on the first page where it labels the reduction of 32.50%?
No.
So the decision packages then, or at least for that one, since the rest are working capital, the professional staff decision packages aren't included within the budget?
No.
Okay.
Are they, well, I said,
did you
I
find
remember
out
at the
what
beginning of the
$18,000 was?
presentation, you guys
No.
saying that it wasn't included in a specific line. Is it included somewhere in the budget as a whole
For which position?
for the two new full-time positions?
No, because we weren't
Yeah.
sure that we were, it's a budget decision package. We haven't,
Like, it
It's
would,
not approved.
we haven't budgeted it because it's not been approved.
I mean, there's also something about that, you don't actually, like, it'd be nice if you listed the actual fee that you wanted with the decision packages, because it's not ever laid out either. You just have version B, which you want is at like, what, 1327, I think? But like, so if we were to approve that, like, you want to get your decision packages, so kind of, when you actually make your actual ask, include the decision packages in them too. But did we find out where that, so, for that
It's not in the
16,
place that-
$18,000 that's missing in the
Unclassified salaries.
diversity development for the salary piece. That basically is dropped from the unclassified salaries.
So 10103 to 10
301.
10301. It
Like, was there,
expense part of it.
was there, like, do you decide to decrease the salary? Because I mean, there's also a difference of about 11,000 in OPE that's related to that.
Wait, what line is that?
Well, if you add the two OPA unclassified and the OPE classified, you get about 50. Oh no, I just can't add. That's right. But yeah, there's still the amount missing
Oh, yeah.
in the salaries piece. Okay.
Kurt?
You're asking where that money went?
There's $16,810 that isn't accounted for with the drop from unclassified salaries.
You're talking about just the salary section of that?
In the
Wow.
diversity development section, 10-101 and 10-301, there's quite a bit of money missing.
Version B of this packet, so their preferred budget and.
It's in about the middle of the third page.
They do that when they're doing like.
So if you took out the unclassified salary, made it a classified staff position, that would account for, $36,500. But then there's, when you remove that from the actual number, you just have 53,000. You subtract the salary from that, you have an extra $16,810 that's unaccounted for.
And you're talking comparison to 12, 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that salary last year was quite a bit higher than that. I believe that's the difference.
So if it was approved last year at a higher salary rate, but you're requesting a lower number this year for, okay.
So
there was a
the
little
person's
bit of
salary is
incremental
getting
increase.
cut by
The
18,000?
person doesn't exist yet, the position has been hired, but the
Okay.
salary
The
will be lower.
potential person, okay.
The position will be lower.
The
The salary to that one position, when it changed from unclassified to a classified salary, the salary decreased. And so that's where they're accounting for that $16,000. So the salary decreased by $16,000 for that position.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the OP would stay the same?
No, it'd be adjusted. But OPE is going up, so it's for that difference.
Okay.
The classified position.
Yeah,
we
the-
decided to do the mid-range, the 65 reductions for that difference too.
Yeah, and that would account then for the amount, the change in from the approved budget from last year and then the requested for this year.
I have a couple questions regarding specifically the diversity development budget. Let's see, other professional services, you requested $1,000, you approved $1,000 last year and requesting $5,000 this year. But in last year, you didn't spend any money anyways. So I'm kind of wondering why there's the increase. Yeah, I have plenty of those to ask.
We request an increase because as we move forward with the cultural centers, remarketing it and doing massive marketing, we're planning actually to bring folks out to help us with the marketing piece and hosting speakers to really put the centers on more of
Okay,
this highlight.
so that's like, the OPS is like subcontracting people to help. I'm guessing that would be your basis for most of these
Yes.
increases?
Yes, exactly. So the line items were reallocated, and the purpose of reallocation and increasing those line item from A to B was to work on two main areas, the marketing campaign for the new cultural centers and for professional development of the staff, the GTA and the professional staff.
Okay, what about out-of-state employee travel?
Yes.
I mean, you're requesting the same, but last year you spent like 40% of it.
And yes, and that's a good question. We actually requested it, again, trying to really increase the professional development piece, but as last year, as we were going through the rebuilding, we weren't sure what we were gonna do, and so those funds didn't get used. because we wouldn't really have a clear initiative of what the direction of the cultural center is going. So I didn't want to spend money just to spend money.
Mhm.
So that's why we use it all.
Okay. But you actually anticipate to use?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, because for example, this, next week, we'll be taking students with us down to Stanford University.
Okay.
And to look at their cultural centers and their model and hopefully bringing it back and looking at our version.
Okay.
So we'll be doing more of those type of professional development.
Okay. Thanks.
Can you, do you have your computer?
Mm-hmm.
Can you pull up the Excel spreadsheet so we can try and run the numbers on the increase so we can see what the
Could
increase
you
looks like
talk
for the
briefly about the
packages?
internal and external
for the
review that
decision packages?
happened? Yep.
Definitely. So ISS went under new leadership last year, and it's been doing a lot of restructuring and strategic planning for the following years. Allison Davis-White has taken over as director of ISS, and we decided to do a review of ourselves, what has been going well, what hasn't been going well. And so we did an internal review where we did a lot of assessment and talking to individual staff members, assessing programs, assessing outreach efforts, and everyone else can speak to this as well. I don't have to be the spokesperson here, but and we realized that a lot of things we were doing wasn't working, and so we actually had an external review, so that included 3 individuals from different institutions come in and do a review of ISS and the Cultural Center's diversity development. See what was going well, what wasn't going well, hearing students talk about their experiences and whether they're getting enough support. Student workers as well, and graduate teaching assistants. That's where we got a lot of the data and to support our decision packages for professional staff members, is that they were not feeling supported. And so right now ISS is in a bit of a transition, and we're trying to move it in a different direction. And so I don't know if anyone else wants to speak to that.
I think it would be helpful, I mean, just some of the discussions we have to kind of talk about, I know that a lot of the professional faculty priorities for what they'd be doing have to do with like academic coaching and professional development. So kind of talking about, I mean, and this may be my understanding, but I'm not sure about how much of student fees are supposed to go towards academics and like kind of what the line is there.
In the past, we haven't funded academics.
Yeah.
And I think that one thing that perhaps diversity development can perhaps do a little bit of better job of doing is communicating the difference between our anticipated result of having full-time staff in versus their actual job duties. So rather than using terms like academic coaching or academic advising, or having it as a faculty position, having it as a staff position, and the result of the work that they would do, of the mentoring and facilitating that they would do with staff would result in academic retention of our students. So rather than sitting down and helping them with their class schedule, not doing that type of academic coaching, because the result of that would be utilizing general fund fees and not student fees, obviously. And so does that help? Because I think it's good to kind of make that clear that it wouldn't be academic coaching that the professional staff would be doing, but the type of guidance and the work that they would be doing, taking off certain work from the GTAs and from our student staff, kind of lessening their workload, would then result in the academic retention of our students. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And as I'm with the Women's Center and the GTA, and we have a professional staff, and it's very helpful because GTAs were also students too.
Yeah.
And to be expected to run and mentor 10, 12 undergraduates is a big deal. But by having a professional staff who's been trained, and we're in the process of being trained to do that, but they are actually trained to do this and facilitate. So that's the kind of guidance that they give, not academic advising, but whether the programming we thought about all the different angles we might need to think about, or thinking about budget, or being conscious of the different issues.
Yeah.
From a professional mentor type.
Okay.
And I'd like to also add that the goal is not to bring academic counseling or advising to the center by the professional staff, because currently right now in the center, we work in partnership with the Academic Success Center, which is already an academic unit. We work with EOP, which is Educational Opportunity, and the Writing Center, and the Math Center. So those are all the academic units that this professional staff would be a liaison to those units to say, these are the different areas that our students are needing. Can you come in and kind of help us facilitate those needs? And so, because currently there's not a person in the center that does that, and so because of that, student retention isn't very high, and all they focus on is the work in the center or the leadership position.
Okay.
I have a question for the Women's Center. There was something about like the working capital request and this trip to UAE every other year. Because it's well known, I mean, it's not something that like comes out to be something more unexpected. Is there a way, have you considered building into your budget the costs for going to the UAE every other year instead of just kind of?
Yeah, last year was the first time it happened. I'm new this year, so I don't know. And so I think it was kind of like a pilot idea, but I think like after 2 iterations, if we feel that it really is helping our center or helping with student development, it would be good to add in, but I think we're still trying to figure out.
Okay, that makes sense. One other one. So, Nikki, I saw in it, you want to hire another intern and a coordinator?
No, we want to hire 2 summer positions. In the past, we had AmeriCorps people, but AmeriCorps aren't OSU students, so we're not serving the OSU, we're giving people jobs, basically. And we thought it would be more beneficial to the OSU community if we hired students during the summer instead of AmeriCorps, so that's why we're asking for that.
Okay, but so that doesn't really affect the
Huh?
that doesn't really affect your budget then if you're just switching instead of other people, students. Okay.
On the subject of AmeriCorps, are you all still considering applying for one for the Pride Center? Allison, I think we talked about that.
Right. No, we felt much the same as Marigold that it would be better if we could, in fact, get the GTA position. And so as you see in our decision package that we offer that, because again, going back to we would prefer that this money go towards students than to an outside entity or person. However, in the event that that doesn't get approved, we were looking at pursuing it as a possible option, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a question, 2 questions actually about in regards to the external review. So, how specifically was the need identified? Like, what type of matrix was used in regards to creation of these positions, particularly around student and staff feedback? Like, was there a specific matrix used? Was there a formula that was applied to identify the need for that many full-time positions? And then, how many students were involved in writing the position description?
Allison?
Oh, okay. So hi, I'm Allison. I'm with ISS, so part of Diversity Development and the Cultural Centers. So actually, the request for the professional faculty positions came from students. As you probably are aware, we had an internal review of our office, and then we had an external review. We brought in faculty from different universities who then held focus groups with different stakeholders on campus. And as you probably know, our largest stakeholders are in fact students. So we had one forum for students and another forum for graduate students. And so the request for these professional faculty positions actually came from the students, who said that for a number of reasons they were feeling overwhelmed in the center. Some of them were struggling academically. We also received some data from our own institutional research office about retention rates here on campus. And just to give you an idea, for African American students here on this campus, our retention rate is 39%. So that's below 50%, considerably. The next group that has a very poor retention rate are Native American students here on our campus, and I believe that is like 42%. So there is a concerted effort on campus, I'm sure some of you are aware, to address retention inequities. So there's general fund money that's also being put into assisting with the formation of some sort of retention activities within the cultural centers. And it would be important for us to have a professional faculty member there as a vector for those specific initiatives, again, funded by general fund money, to assist in making, or at least contributing to some change in our appalling retention numbers at the present time.
And I'd like to also add that in the number of years I've been in this position as well, we take an exit poll or evaluations or assessment, if you like to call it, with our students at the end of each year. And the burnt out and the maximum capacity at the cost of their academics has been a general theme every year as well, even prior to our internal and external review with the focus groups.
How much student participation did you have with the forums and the focus groups? I mean, do you know about how many students were involved in those discussions?
You know, I don't have the exact number, but I do know that we offered, I believe, 2 sessions, and they were very well attended. I would say that almost all of the staff in the cultural centers, I see Miguel nodding his head, and others, Momi, participated in that. And I know with the graduate student forum, I believe there were at least 10 to 15 individuals who did, in fact, show up. And so there's a considerable portion of our external review that focuses solely on the cultural centers. So that says that there was some compelling reasons.
So do we know, because at least for the undergrad forum, you know, there was probably 35 undergrad students there, and there were 2 students that spoke up about the desire for a position like this. Was there, after the forum, was there an increase in students like coming and saying, hey, we really want this, we need this, or are we just basing it off the number of students in that one forum? And then on top of that, once that need was identified by students, how were students and how many students were involved in actually writing a position description for the desired decision package?
Correct. So I wasn't present in the forums because this was all supposed to be student input. I do know that previous to these forums and actually after, there were a number of students who have come in and have shared. I currently have a GTA who works for me who was a previous GTA in one of the cultural centers, and she says, oh my goodness, you really need to get somebody in there. I've had previous coordinators who have long since graduated and said that this was long needed, that there should be a professional faculty person there. As far as writing the position descriptions, we're holding off on writing those because, number one, we wanted to get this through the decision package process, and number two, those position descriptions need to be written with students. It cannot be written by us. So that's something that has to happen, and that, by the way, has already been articulated to HR. So they know.
Thank you.
Could we get a, can I get a copy of the external review for student diversity?
Yes, I'm going to create an executive summary that will pull together key and core concepts within the external review. I think I feel uncomfortable. Of course, it is a public document, but I feel uncomfortable because there were some references made to other areas of ISS that had to do with staff and personnel, and I would really like to keep, that part kind of confidential. But I think as far as the cultural center piece, surely I would be more than happy to share that.
Okay, hold on a second. Is it, but it's public record?
Yeah, it is in fact public record.
What? Could you black out the names, I guess?
Sure,
I mean,
I could take care of that. Yes.
okay, because it is public record.
It
so
is in fact.
there's quorums, doing that. But I think that will be acceptable for us because it's not really relevant to what we're trying to do. Oh, one thing, so the reservation system, the EMS, I think I saw it on the part of your fund balance that comes out of that. Is that something that's going to be consistent costs going forward?
That's a great question. In talking with Deb Mott, who's currently basically managing the EMS system right now, that is an estimate as a base, and then also she said that the contract with them is based on usage as well. There's a percentage charge based on usage, and we don't know what the usage will be until we implement the system. So it may be meaning if there's high volume usage, then there's another percentage that they add on to top.
So perhaps next year you'd be able to incorporate that in the actual operating budget.
Exactly.
Okay. So I guess what's the full-time job that was approved last year, the professional one, that position description that just got posted? Could we, you want to ask for the position description?
Yeah, I want a copy of that as well.
Could we get a copy of the position description for that? And what's also the time, do you know any idea of the timeline?
Yes, so recruitment began mid-January, and our goal, from my understanding from HR, that because it's a classified position, it can be pretty accelerated. So our goal is to have someone in place by the first week of March.
Okay.
Hired and working by first week of March.
All right.
So that salary until it's hired will go into working capital?
Yes.
What, do you know the monthly salary?
We had an estimate of the mid-range.
Or the total, including, like, how much would it cost monthly salary plus OPE?
It's
You
a
know?
decision.
Are you saying, or it's contributing to fund it out?
Well, no, because, next time I was to talk about was my projection for your surplus for this fiscal year. So I wanted to try to incorporate that into it. Okay. So about that position though, the problem I have is it was granted a year ago, as well as I think it was requested 0.75, and we upped it to full-time. And the fact that it took so long to get posted is concerning to at least me, because I feel like when we grant you this money and the ability to do this, and it's not, I'm not really sure why, but I mean, you had from the day it was granted to start, like, get a position description available. I'm sure you could have, so you could have started that day. It took got posted in January, so about 11 months. And that's disconcerting to me because it's hard to then grant more positions, more professional positions after something like that happens. So that would be my quarrel with the professional faculty that's being requested at the decision package right now.
So perhaps I could respond to that, if I may?
Yeah.
And explain to you what happened. Actually, the delay in that position was caused by human resources. And so when we originally requested the funds, we had requested for a professional faculty position. And based on what we needed to have done in the cultural centers, they were not willing to move that forward as a professional faculty position at all. And so they moved it down to a classified position. And this was a very, very difficult set of conversations that we had to have. we, from that experience, have now learned that if we move forward with any positions, and I can share with you that we've already mentioned to them that if we are to get other professional faculty positions, we've given them guidelines on what it is that we would like to see them ask questions about, so that there's no more confusion around whether this should be a professional classified or a classified position, professional faculty or classified position. So I share your frustration. It was a very long and arduous process for us. I think that because we've already had preliminary conversations with them about this decision package, we've also included Larry Rober in these conversations with HR around this decision package. We did this intentionally so as not to go through this again. So I understand your concern, and it's well taken.
I spoke with HR also, and I feel like there might be some different stories on this side of how the discussions around the position description went. So I understand that it can be frustrating, but I don't know if I would say it was, I feel like it is unfair to say that it was also caused by HR, and I think that, I mean, maybe if you could provide some clarity around what SIFC approved last year for the position and what HR thought the changes needed to be made. I've heard something about it was supposed to be more technical than what it should have been or something like that, but I'm just a little confused about how HR could have held it up for 9 months.
I think what happened, we were granted a professional faculty position through SIFC. And when we wrote up the original PD, HR kicked it back and said, this does not qualify as a professional faculty position. And
Was there a position description for SIFC last year?
No.
What was the intent of that professional faculty?
I will let Victoria respond to what the intent was.
So the intent was that we needed a staff not only to help with the administrative process of facilitating, like for example, this budgeting process for all the students in the center. And then the other need that was really shared with SIFC was to be up to the current trends around social media and the website design, because we couldn't retain a student over a long-term period. And because one of the challenges folks have said that our website aren't up to date, and we shared the concern that if you had a student, we had such high turnover rate on the plan that we couldn't keep our web pages up to date and all our social media piece. And so that was the proposal to SIFC. Okay. And so when we wrote the first job PD, it had that web component in it. And that's where, as Allison mentioned, they kicked back saying this is too technical. And thus, because it was technical, it needed to be a classified position. And so we sort of went back and forth. And in my recollection, we went through 4 job PD revisions to finally get to where we had them approve it at the rate that it did before it went to post in January.
So do you feel like the post that's up now is going to be able to meet the needs that you all need from that position? I mean, is this something that you all are happy with?
I think it's a good compromise. Ideally, we would want them to have a little bit more around not only just the technical, because initially students voiced they wanted this person to also help with some of the leadership piece of the student development piece in addition to the technical piece. But as we move forward with this, in working with HR, it was very clear to us that we had to sort of pick and choose between the two. And so at this point, I think we have a good compromise. But if you're asking the question, is this an ideal for what initially was proposed, my answer would be no.
Yeah, that's kind of what that sounds like too. So professional faculty when you post a position for professional faculty, it cannot include a very technical area? It's not, you're not able to include like a very technical area at that point?
Well, that was part of our misunderstanding. So when we submitted, as I said before, we submitted as a professional faculty position, and it was kicked back to us because we did have some of this tech piece in it. We changed the percentages again, hence the going back and forth for several months. We tried taking pieces out, and as Victoria said, we ended up compromising and saying, okay, it'll be a classified position as you wish. We will take the leadership piece out. By this time, we started to get the results back from our external review, which spoke to having professional faculty, and our hope was, well, then if we take all of this and do this compromise to go along with the new moving from professional faculty to classified position as we've been requested to do, hopefully the professional faculty in the cultural centers will help with some of this. But this was indeed a compromise, and it did indeed take that many months with HR to clarify and to get this position posted.
Okay.
I'd just like to reiterate something for an HR process, just so any job that's established, a position description is submitted to the HR department at the business center, and then that they review and decide what classification it is, if it's a classified employee or an unclassified employee. So that it comes from the unit determining what the need level is, but then it's reviewed and approved before. So that was the sort of piece of it, and it's no different from any other unit that would have that.
So the classified position now will do technical work and budgeting and kind of more administrative?
Yes, so right now, currently, they pretty much do administrative support in the diversity development office in addition to the technical piece.
If you were also receiving the leadership component maybe in a different capacity, would you need that classified position at full time?
Currently, I believe that the classified position is at full time.
Would you need it at that though, if you also had someone doing kind of the leadership and professional faculty part of things?
Right, and as we were going through with the job PD, we removed the leadership piece, and as the cultural centers are coming online, we also realized that there's that database component as, for example, the EMS system, and then moving the center online to the keyless entry. That all takes a personnel to manage. Very similar, like in the MU here, we have Pam Hansen as one person doing that, and then we also have Deb Nod, and then Guy sort of facilitating the key process. So then that was then added onto this PD, which initially was not in the conversation because we weren't aware that these were needs until the centers came online. Okay. So at this point, this job position is pretty much full at the capacity.
Okay.
I have a question, or I guess like an ask for the SDBB. Would you be able to come, so on Tuesday when we see you all again, so when we actually run, if you were, because so you didn't include the numbers like we asked for the decision packages, what the impact would be on the student fee and the impact to the overall budget. And that was one of the things we requested within each decision package so that we can see, okay, if we approve this decision package, the fee increases by this amount and the total budget increases by this amount. But when we calculated ourselves, like, okay, so this year you're wanting to use some money out of working capital, but then next year, or maybe the year after that, you wouldn't. So you'd see that increase. So right now, let's say that you weren't using anything out of your fund balance. The ask is $406,000, which is almost a 45% increase to the overall budget. That's a pretty substantial increase. And our job as students who are elected by the entire student body is to just make sure that they're using students' money responsibly, because none of these exist without, student fee dollars. So everything is run really by that money. So making sure we understand that and we're using that money responsibly. If we were, so let's say we said, okay, we see the, we've addressed the need, we see it's there, it's justified. How would we then be able to, or how would you all be able to justify to the student population why a 45% increase was needed rather than seeing maybe 10% increases over the course of 4 years? Like if a student were to come to you and ask you all, and as chairs of your budgeting board, hey, why did you need extra $406,000? How would you get to that? How would you go about justifying that? Because I think that's something that we would need to see in order to make a decision on such a large impact. Because this is, the percentage-wise, the largest impact of any budgeting board that run by student fees.
Yeah, sure. It's a huge request, and we recognize that, but.
I did want to add, you said that we didn't include the effect to student per term per fee. We did actually. It should be under. Unless
we saw that there was like it showed it was like $2 or something like that.
Yeah, how much would go up or down?
But that doesn't really it doesn't show us the hard numbers. It doesn't show, okay, so say the custodial services. I want to know, I was looking at these budgets and I was like, well, why isn't that number going up in here? And I want to know exactly the effect that it's going to have on the budget per year. If you guys are relying on that student fee money, like where is that coming from? Where is that going to? And then also, some of these are relying on working capital. I want to see where your working capital is now, like how much is going to come out of it, and at what point is that working capital not going to be able to fund these programs? It's going to need to come from fees. So how are you going to prepare for that so that there isn't a huge fee increase in 2 or 3 years? And the issue is that I've been looking through these budgets and I just can't find any of these numbers. So yes, there is a minor note of how much it's going to affect the fee, but it really doesn't give us the scope that we need to know what the short-term and long-term effects are going to be.
Because it's like you did tell us that, you know, each student would be paying, I mean, you didn't give us the number, but you gave us for each one. So if you added up yourself, each student would pay an extra $5.75, which, you know, is a relatively small amount. But then if a student were to see the overall budget increase, we would have to be able to justify that amount. Yeah.
Would you prefer us to prepare like a line item budget with everything included in it? Would that be helpful?
I would like to see that. One of the things that we saw with another budgeting board that was spending quite a lot out of their fund balance was when CAPS came here. They showed where their fund balance is now, and with the programs that they have, where it's going to be in 5 years, and basically how they're going to, once the fund balance can no longer sustain these programs, what's going to happen to these programs, how they're going to fund it. And I would really like to see something like that, just so that we can see, you know, these are, I think, great programs, and I understand that there's a need that you guys are trying to meet. But at the same time, once that fund balance runs out, we want to make sure that, you know, these programs are going to be able to continue to be funded. And we need to make sure that as that fund balance comes down, it's being prepared, that the fee in this budget is preparing for what's going to happen next. And I'm just not seeing that in this budget right now. So something like that, some sort of analysis of the long-term fund balance, fee, and the costs of these programs. I would like to know how much they cost and potentially where in the budget they're going to go. I know that you can't actually put them anywhere until the money's been given, but just a general sense of that would be helpful.
All right, we're going to take a quick 10-minute recess, and we'll reconvene at 3:40. Just letting you know. Cool. Thanks.
Can we stop a minute? Brad.
No. What?
I like your bow tie. That is awesome.
No.
Here again. We're gonna go in here again. Cool. Thank you. So what we kind of discussed was what we're gonna kind of vote on and everything. So it was mainly a result of so there's different, many factors playing into what we're gonna do here. The budget was kind of hard to follow, and there was like those GTA positions missing in the NAL and 4Cs. It was the decision packages, the cuts that you had with that, and the mandated increases were very also hard to follow. And in addition, with the positions that you're requesting, we kind of feel that right now we're not going to approve any of the decision packages right now, because we want to discuss, I think there's a conversation we need to have over the next few days regarding that and what we feel would be the best way for next year. So what we kind of came to a decision was, so we're going to reject the decision packages for now, and also approve the fee that you requested for budget A. So it'd be which is at $12.82.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is not, I want to stress, this is not exactly what we imagine the result will be at the end of the open hearing. We imagine there'll be a lot of discussion over the next few days to reconcile our differences, and we also stress that Student University should work with AABC extensively more to create the budget in a way that we can understand it better. And also, the main also with the decision package coming from your working capital, the problem is we need to see the plan for the working capital before we can actually take that money out of working capital. So that's also the main reason behind rejecting the ones, like I think, and we really feel that the janitor makes sense, the GTA makes sense, taking out your working capital. It's just, we need to actually see the long-term effect of that. Yes, that's kind of where we're coming at from our view. And again, stressing, this is not how we imagine the final fee will be set at either.
So
But it's
that-
also not a gimme either. We need to really reconcile our differences and work pretty hard over the next few days.
With that being said, it means that we have basically until Tuesday, so we have, tomorrow and Monday to work on this together. So we're also reaching out to AABC, but reach out to SIFC and your liaison and work on something so we can create a budget that would include appropriate decision packages to do what diversity development needs to do over the next fiscal year. But also make a really transparent budget, and so that we can see a responsible and effective plan over the next few years as diversity development, moves into these new centers, starts, bringing in these new positions, things like that. So please work with the ABC and SIFC and your liaison so that we can get something better by Tuesday.
We really do like the ideas of these programs, and we do support them. It's just the issues with understanding where the money is coming from and the long-term effect is what we need to see before we can actually approve them.
And as the liaison, I'll also send out a clarifying email after our next hearing, so today, to parties involved as well, just to kind of re-summarize some of the expectations that we have to see before the open hearing as well.
So working with AABC and SAFC, can we sit down with you and work on
Yeah.
this packet
Yes,
together?
please.
Because
Yes, certainly.
I don't feel like we had much guidance on this, so it'd be really great to have some support.
All right,
Yeah, so I mean, is there anything left to discuss? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to tentatively approve Student University's fee at $12.81 for fall, winter, spring, or $12.82 for fall, winter, and spring, and for summer at $8.30.
I second the motion.
All right. With the motion made and seconded, we'll move into discussion. Is there any more discussion on this motion? Hearing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. Tyler?
Abstain.
Nick?
4.
Madison?
4.
Tara?
4.
And I'll vote in favor as well. So with 4 in favor, one abstentions, and no opposed, the fee level for Student University has been tentatively set at $12.82 fall, winter, spring, and $8.30 for summer 2015. The 830 was about 65% of 1282, so that's why I used that instead of 865, which I think you're requesting. As a reminder, that was tentative. The open hearing will be Tuesday, February 12th at 5 p.m. at the MU Ballroom. Yeah, so we'll see you all then. I'm sure we'll also see you all over the next few days. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take a 10-minute recess and be back here at, actually 5 minutes. We're going to do a 5-minute recess and we'll be back here at 3:50 for rec sports.